friends, welcome back to the channel. Hope you all are doing well. Finally back in the shop today to do some work. I've been on the road for work for quite a few weeks in a row. Finally got the chance to finally just sit down and work on the car. And I know I need a haircut. What is this even? I don't know, but hopefully I can get a haircut soon. But today we are installing Insane Shaft's replacement axles for this guy. I don't know if you guys have seen my first track day at Gingerman, but under left-hand turns, when the right-hand side of the car is loaded, I get a nasty vibration. You'll see that right here. We're going to replace the axles today with Insane Shaft's axles here. These have the 36 mil end on that side, which is because I have the 36 mil Insane Shaft's hub in here. And while we're in there, I'm going to be taking this coilover apart on this side because I was actually missing a key component in that coilover. So I stopped over at Toge Factory to get a new replacement piece, and we'll just be basically taking apart the coilover, putting that piece in, putting it back together, and we'll be calling it a day after that. Also, over the weekend, I spent some time going through the Rywire harness that I got. I did end up ordering it. I got it in. I got the Rywire engine harness. It's just a budget one. It's nothing fancy or anything like that. It just has the expanding loom. It doesn't have the ray chem on it. I did get the race style fuse box with that, and also the switch panel itself. So I'm gonna be getting rid of the whole ignition lock cylinder, the key, all that. Everything will be operated by the switch panel. It'll be all really cool, but I spent the most part of the weekend basically breaking that whole system down, reverse engineering it to figure out exactly what each fuse does, what each relay does, because for some reason it doesn't come with the fuse box diagram, so you don't actually know what every circuit is on that fuse box. But I was able to trace everything, draw out the schematic, figure out exactly what everything is for, so we'll be good there. I'll show you guys all that a little bit later at the end of this video. So without further ado, let's get to work. All right, now that the wheel's off, basically going to be just removing the axle nut here. I'm going to unstake it, zip it off. Should be a 36 millimeter socket. And up here, I'll probably undo the upper ball joint up here. That way I can pivot the knuckle out of the way, giving the axle enough room to get pulled out. Again, I'll be taking out this coilover to add a missing piece to it too. Should be pretty simple. I'll drop this fork here, and that should be it. All right, here's just a little side-by-side comparison. This is the one I just pulled out. A used OEM JDM ITR axle. This is the Insane Shaft's axle here, B-series with 36 mil end. Should drop right in. All right, the new axle is in, axle nut is on, Tie rod is back on. I ended up having to remove that so I can swing the knuckle out of the way, get the axle out. All the fasteners and everything is in place up here. I just have to tighten that, this, and we'll be done on this side. All right, since I'm done with the axle install on this side, the last bit is to just torque the axle nut down. But like I said before, I'm gonna take the coilover off and show you guys exactly what I was missing. This is the tiny piece that I was missing on the coilover. It's basically an alignment spacer or a centering spacer. I don't know the exact technical term for it, but basically this centers the shock rod through the pillow ball mount at the top and basically centers that rod onto the upper mount. So basically, if you look, these are the spacers, or alignment spacers, or centering spacers, whatever you want to call them. They sit right inside the spherical here on the top and on the bottom. And basically, they just align the actual strut rod through here and centers everything and spaces it out perfectly. That's basically about it. I was just missing one of these. So, time to put it back together, get the side buttoned up. All right, the suspension and everything else is all buttoned up here. Last thing is to just tighten down the axle nut. But since I'm here, I'm gonna install another little piece that I got a little while ago from Althea Motorsports. And it's basically just these little spacers made specifically for the mini rotors on your Civic or whatever you have this conversion on. And if you look, there's actually space between the stud and the rotor itself. And this is designed to just take up that place. So it should be able to just insert it, slide it in, and just like that. And I'll just have one of those on each lug and that'll center it and take away all that play. This should also make braking a little bit more responsive because now that rotor doesn't have to shift before it actually engages the brakes and slows down the car. Get this set if you are have this brake combo. All right, so the wheel is back on. I got a little bit of the weight on the car to keep the wheel from rotating. Came to find out that the torque wrench that I currently have doesn't go up to the spec that I need it to be. That's 134 foot-pounds. So I just got it tightened up for now, not to a particular spec. I'm gonna drop the car, go on to the other side and do the other side. And then when I can get my hands on a torque wrench, then I'll come back, torque the axle nuts down, stake them, then I'll be good. So off to the other side. All right, so the axle's out. As you can see, looks like there's been grease slinging all over the place from that outer axle boot. I think it's safe to say that this was the culprit here, especially being left-hand turns only. Right side is loaded, which means this left side axle kind of floats in here a little bit and allows it to kind of move. So I'm thinking that's where that vibration is coming from. So we'll throw in the new one and you know, clean this up a little bit, and we should be good to go.
A few moments later.
All right, after a few minutes of cleaning up and wiping down, and everything seems clear and clean of grease here. Again, here's the side-by-side of the new axle compared to the old axle here. Of course, on this end is a female end. If you look, it actually splines into a male end on the intermediate shaft down there. So it's not exactly identical to what's happening on the passenger side. This is a little bit different because the intermediate shaft is on this side. But other than that, you know, we got everything clean over here. We'll go ahead and pop this in, and that should be it for the day. All right, wheels are back down. Axles are pretty much done. It will take me about, you know, 2 hours or so with filming. So it's a quick, easy job. Just want to take this moment to kind of go through some of the new wiring that I have for the car with you guys. If you want to take a look, there's 3 major components that I did get from Rywire. This is the engine harness itself right here. This is just their budget harness. That's why all of the wiring is black. I know I'm gonna kick myself in the butt one of these days when I have to diagnose something and every single wire is black, but I'm not too worried about it right now. This is just an OBD1 harness. Injectors are OBD1, distributors OBD1, alternators OBD1. And you know, it's got the expandable loom. It looks pretty nice still, even though it's their budget harness. All the connectors are new, so we should be good here. And the second component is the switch panel here. If you look, got a red switch, 5 black switches. This is an on-off. This first black one is a momentary switch, and the rest of these are on-offs. Then this is gonna be my new power distribution here, a new fuse box. Obviously, it's a lot smaller than the factory box. And of course, all the wiring coming off of it is in Raychem DR25. Everything's labeled, really nice. The really cool thing about this particular kit here is that all 3 pieces are designed to work together. So it's, for the most part, 99% plug and play. If you look here on the engine harness, you got your ECU plugs here. You got either, I think this is like a common ground or a common power, one of the two. I think it might be a common ground. And then you have this extra connector here. And this is proprietary to Rywire. He integrates this chassis harness connector here. So you can basically put this OBD1 engine harness into any chassis. It can be an EF, EG, EK, and this just plugs into a sub harness that he makes, and then it goes to the rest of your car. But because I'm using an aftermarket, you know, race style fuse box and a switch panel, I technically am not installing this in a particular chassis. This is more of a universal setup. But if you look, this male chassis connector here, the female half of that chassis connector is on the power distribution block here. Essentially, engine harness plugs into the power distribution, and then the power distribution also has a connector that goes to the switches. If you look here, it's actually labeled, goes to the switches, and that just plugs right in just like that. And then you have your power going to the power distribution. And then if you were running a dash of some kind, you would just get the parts for the female half of this connector and wire it up that way. And then this is an auxiliary output harness here. So there's 4 larger gauge wires. This is the only part where you really have to do some wiring. You have to wire in your fuel pump, your cooling fan, your lights, and then you have a spare wire there to basically control whatever output you want to control. But I basically spent last weekend kind of going through this whole harness and tracing all the wires with a voltmeter, basically trying to find out what each wire goes to and what each fuse is for, what each relay is for. And if you look, there's no, fuse diagram. So looking at this, you don't exactly know what fuse is for what. So I spent most of the weekend identifying exactly what is what, drawing out the schematics, measuring things out, and I was able to find out exactly what each fuse is for, what each relay is for, and I have a full understanding of how this thing is wired now. So once that time comes to install all of this, it'll be really easy. But first, I have to relocate the battery. That's probably what you'll see in the next video. And if you didn't notice already, there's no dash, so I kind of have to create a way to mount the switches and the fuse box. And in the next video, I'm going to kind of go through how I'm planning on mounting all these. Brandon did just get a 3D printer, so I'll probably be designing some things so that we can print out, and I can use it to build mounting brackets, panels, etc., etc. But I'll basically have the freedom to really do whatever I want. And that makes me really excited because I can design exactly how I want to do it. I can even put my logo on some of these things. We got just shy of about 2 months until the next track day. I think progress right now is really good. As long as I stay on top of things and I continue to work consistently, we should be able to make the deadline. So that pretty much wraps it up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you guys want to stay up to date with the build and everything else that's going on in this channel, please consider subscribing to the channel. Share the video, it'd be great if you guys did. It would really help the channel out. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to put some comments down below and I'll do my best to answer them. Oh, and also one thing, head over to bbspeed.com for some merch. I got t-shirts, hats, things like that. But until then, I will see you guys in the next video.